Before we even notice, life unfolds in countless subtle thresholds, each carrying the weight of choice and the echo of consequence. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, is a reflection of a deeper reality, a silent invitation to examine the patterns of our mind, to recognize the cycles that shape our destiny. In this space, philosophy ceases to be abstract and becomes a living guide, a call to witness, to understand, and to act with clarity. If you find resonance in these reflections, I invite you to subscribe and share this journey so that together we may explore the profound architecture of consciousness. Imagine for a moment your daily life as a series of mini-bardos, each a threshold of choice, each a subtle reflection of the ultimate bardo of death and rebirth. Every decision, whether to speak kindly or harshly, to act out of fear or courage, to cling or to release, is a step across the invisible bridge between light and shadow. And yet, most of us move through these thresholds unobserved, unconscious of the enormous significance contained in each fleeting instant. This is where modern psychology and ancient wisdom converge. The mind, in its habitual patterns, constructs small samsaras, miniature cycles of desire, attachment, aversion, and fear, repeating endlessly until we wake to awareness. Every unresolved anger, every indulged craving, every regret, clinging to memory, is a microcosm of the Bardo, a rehearsal for the ultimate confrontation that awaits at the threshold of death. Recognizing this is not merely philosophical speculation, it is practical insight into the architecture of human consciousness. So when we speak of the Shibal Bardo, we are not speaking of death alone. We are speaking of the continuous liminal spaces that structure our daily experience, the invisible thresholds that define whether our consciousness moves toward freedom or repetition. To live mindfully is to navigate these thresholds with awareness, to recognize fear, desire, and attachment as signposts rather than tyrants, and to cultivate intentions rooted in compassion rather than ignorance. In this light, the teaching of karma becomes profoundly relevant. It is not a ledger of reward and punishment, but a mirror reflecting the energy of our mind, shaping the patterns of our experience, moment by moment. Evil karma arises in self-centered, ignorant intentions, blindness to impermanence, and failure to see the interconnectedness of all beings. Good karma arises in intentions rooted in compassion, awareness, and selflessness, creating patterns of liberation that resonate far beyond the individual. In contemplating the Shibal Bardo of modern life, we begin to see that death and rebirth are not distant events, but ongoing processes unfolding in every choice, every thought, every moment of attention. Life itself becomes a continuous practice of awareness, a rehearsal for the ultimate threshold, the final mirror in which our consciousness will stand revealed. And in understanding this, we find both challenge and hope, the challenge to act consciously in the present, the hope that every moment of awareness, every act of compassion moves us closer to liberation from the cycles of fear, desire, and attachment. Let us now venture into the most profound and psychologically charged aspect of the Shibal Bardo, the space between death and rebirth. It is here that the wrathful deities appear, not as cosmic punishers, but as living symbols of a universal truth, the ceaseless flux of all phenomena and the absence of inherent existence. These wrathful figures are not external gods. They are projections of the mind, manifestations of unacknowledged fear, anger, desire, and attachment. They call out, "See yourself, confront your own being." Yet most of us, most of the time, close our eyes in terror. And in that moment of avoidance, darkness swallows us once more. We descend into the repetitive cycles of samsara, the endless spiral of rebirth. Not because fate has condemned us, but because our consciousness recoils from the truth it is not yet ready to face. The Tibetan Book of the Dead articulates this starkly. Those who flee are reborn. This simple declaration carries a weight of philosophical and psychological insight that is astonishing in its clarity. The Bardo is not merely a metaphysical space. It is a mirror reflecting the deepest recesses of human consciousness. The wrathful deities are nothing but the shadows of the self, the accumulated projections of suppressed emotions, repressed desires, unacknowledged fears. They are the unresolved, disowned parts of our psyche that, if ignored, wield immense influence over the trajectory of our lives. Consider the words of Carl Jung, whose insights into the human psyche resonate strikingly with the Bardo teachings. If you do not confront your shadow, it will become your destiny and rule you. In other words, the Bardo between death and the next life is, from a psychological perspective, a profound stage of projection and integration. It is a liminal zone where the soul is forced to encounter the shadows it has refused to acknowledge during life. The process is unavoidable. One must either confront the truth within or continue to be drawn into cycles of repetition, carrying unresolved patterns forward into new forms of existence. The death of the body, then, is not an endpoint. It is the climax of self-integration, the ultimate opportunity for the consciousness to confront its entirety. In this liminal state, there is no escape from the mirror of the self. Every suppressed fear, every denied emotion, every unacknowledged desire rises up in symbolic form, demanding recognition. The wrathful deities, terrifying as they may appear, are the soul's final tutors, insisting on self-awareness. Philosophically, this is a radical statement about human existence. Our deepest trials are not imposed by external forces, but by the unresolved contents of our own psyche. Death, the Bardo, and rebirth serve as the ultimate stages of self-confrontation. The challenge is to see clearly, to face what we have hidden, even from ourselves, and to integrate those elements into a coherent sense of self. Only then does the cycle of fear, avoidance, and compulsive repetition cease. In practical terms, this teaches us something extraordinary about life itself. Every moment we resist acknowledging fear, every time we evade the difficult truths within our minds, we are rehearsing the Bardo. Each act of denial, each moment of turning away from our own shadow, plants seeds for future cycles of repetition. Conversely, each act of courageous self-reflection, each encounter with our own inner darkness, is a step toward liberation, a microcosm of the final integration that death eventually demands. The wrathful deities of the Bardo, then, are not instruments of punishment. They are guides. They embody the universal principle that avoidance prolongs suffering, while conscious engagement fosters freedom. To encounter them is to confront the raw energy of the unacknowledged self, to wrestle with the aspects of our mind that have been denied, and ultimately to reclaim mastery over one's own destiny. In this light, the Bardo becomes the ultimate laboratory of consciousness. It is where the illusions of permanence are stripped away, where the ego faces its shadows, and where the individual has the opportunity to achieve true self-integration. Death, therefore, is not simply a biological cessation. It is the apex of psychological transformation. It is the moment when the accumulated patterns of a lifetime, the fears, desires, attachments, and unresolved conflicts demand recognition, and the soul must either confront them or continue to be ensnared in the ceaseless cycles of rebirth. To stand before the wrathful deities of the Bardo is, in essence, to stand before oneself. The process is frightening because it is uncompromising, relentless, and absolute. Yet it is also merciful because it presents a final opportunity for insight, for integration, and for liberation. By facing these symbolic manifestations of our unacknowledged selves, by opening our eyes to the truths we have avoided, we align with the timeless teaching of the Bardo: freedom is possible, but only through courageous self-recognition. And so as we reflect on the Bardo, we see it not merely as a mythological or religious concept, but as a profound psychological reality, the space in which the self must confront its own shadow, reconcile its fragments, and move toward wholeness. It is here that the convergence of death, rebirth, and consciousness occurs, reminding us that the journey toward self-integration begins not at the moment of death, but in every conscious engagement with the shadows we encounter in life. Let us contemplate the ultimate teaching of Buddhism, distilled into a single, profound truth. All phenomena arise from the mind. When the mind turns toward awakening, there is liberation. When the mind clings to attachment, there is samsara. This principle, simple in words, yet infinite in depth, illuminates the very heart of the human experience. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, particularly in its account of the third day, the so-called Bardo, the intermediate state between death and the next. Rebirth offers not merely a mysterious vision of the afterlife. It is a reflection, a metaphor, and a mirror of the daily dramas unfolding within our own minds. Every emotion, every moment of attachment, every fear or desire is a miniature bardo, a liminal threshold where the mind chooses its trajectory, whether toward freedom or repetition. Imagine for a moment standing in the presence of wrathful deities, projections of your own unacknowledged anger, fear, and desire. To face them requires courage. The courage to confront one's own shadow. The courage to recognize the hidden corners of the self that one has long avoided. This is the true key to breaking the cycles of samsara. The willingness to look inward, to illuminate what has remained in darkness, and to act with awareness. Only then can the mind disengage from the compulsive repetition of attachment and fear, opening the door to liberation. This teaching is not distant or abstract. It is immediate. It is present in every decision you make, every choice of attention, every engagement with the world. Life itself becomes a mirror of the Bardo, revealing the consequences of how we orient our mind toward clarity, compassion, and presence, or toward distraction, craving, and avoidance. In this sense, every day is a rehearsal for the ultimate confrontation that will one day come at the threshold of death. When we recognize this, we begin to understand why. The Bardo is both terrifying and merciful. It is terrifying because it exposes us to the unflinching truth of our own mind, laying bare the consequences of fear, desire, and avoidance. Yet it is merciful because it offers the opportunity for insight, for self-integration, and for liberation. To choose the light, to open one's eyes in awareness, rather than closing them in fear, is an act of profound courage. And though it may seem small, this act resonates far beyond the individual, potentially illuminating a path for others caught in their own darkness. And so, the narrative of the third day of the Shibal. Bardo is more than a story of death and rebirth. It is a story of life itself, the cycles of attachment and aversion, the ongoing dance of consciousness, and the constant opportunity for choice. The moment when the soul, guided by the weight of its karma, steps toward one of 6 potential paths, is mirrored every day in the choices we make, the attention we give, and the intentions we cultivate. Life, in this sense, is a continuous rehearsal of the Bardo, a series of liminal thresholds, where the direction of the mind determines the unfolding of experience. If this reflection has stirred something within you, if it has prompted a quiet resonance in your mind, then consider subscribing to this channel. Subscription is more than a simple click. It is a symbolic affirmation, a small commitment to opening your eyes toward the light, even in the midst of daily distractions and challenges. Every choice to act with awareness, every moment of engagement with clarity and compassion is a spark that may one day illuminate the path for another soul wandering in darkness. Thank you for watching until the end. May your mind move steadily toward the light. This story does not depict the afterlife as something to fear. Rather, it illustrates the direction of the mind that we choose every day, the choices that determine whether we dwell in attachment, fear, and repetition, or move toward clarity, compassion, and liberation. And now, let us turn to the precise moment in the narrative, the third day after death, when the soul encounters the consequences of its karma and steps toward one of 6 possible paths. This is not merely a story of life after death. It is a vivid illustration of life itself, of how the cycles of rebirth and attachment are continuously present, woven into the fabric of our daily existence. By observing this, we see that liberation is not reserved for some mystical future. It is available now. In every conscious choice, every deliberate act, every moment we direct our mind toward clarity and understanding. If you find resonance in this story, please like and subscribe, allowing this narrative of light to continue. Each act of engagement, each moment of awareness becomes part of the ripple that carries insight, compassion, and awakening forward, not just for yourself, but for the countless others whose lives intersect with yours. The ultimate teaching of the Shibal Bardo is clear. The mind determines the journey. When oriented toward insight, it is liberation. When clinging to attachment, it is samsara. And every day, every moment provides the opportunity to step consciously into the light, to face the shadows within, and to participate fully in the continuous drama of life, choice, and awakening. Let us now journey to a pivotal moment in the narrative of the Shibal Bardo, a moment of profound revelation the third day after death, when the mirror of karma finally opens before the consciousness of the departed. After the passage of 3 nights, the soul enters a realm where light and darkness diverge, where the consequences of every action and intention are revealed with unflinching clarity. Imagine a space suspended in infinite emptiness, a vast shimmering expanse of silver light in which a colossal mirror floats, impossibly large, reflecting the totality of existence itself. Before this mirror stands the soul, trembling, and the mirror speaks not in words of accusation, but in the quiet voice of absolute truth. I will show you your deeds. And then the waves begin. Memories rise like tides, sweeping across the consciousness. Laughter and anger, envy and compassion, love and betrayal, greed and generosity. Every action, every thought, every subtle intention is reflected with complete fidelity. Nothing is hidden, nothing is diminished, nothing distorted. The mirror does not judge, it simply reveals. And then comes a voice, resonant, timeless, echoing through the boundless space. Those who have accumulated evil karma shall enter the 3 lower paths. Those who have cultivated good karma shall enter the paths of virtue. At that moment, the heavens and the earth seem to separate. Light and shadow part, forming distinct avenues, each calling the soul toward its destined journey. 6 paths emerge from this cosmic revelation, each reflecting the moral and spiritual architecture of samsara. These are the 6 realms of rebirth, the rokudo, the 6 pathways of existence that structure the cycles of life and death. Philosophically, this is more than a story of the afterlife. It is a vivid allegory of consciousness itself. The mirror symbolizes the inescapable reflection of our own actions. Every choice, every intention, every unresolved desire and fear is recorded, not as an external judgment, but as the natural consequence of the mind. Karma, in its essence, is not imposed, it unfolds, according to the patterns we ourselves have created. And in this there is both terror and mercy. Terror, because the truth is absolute. Merciful, because revelation offers the possibility of understanding and liberation. Imagine standing before such a mirror in life, not just after death. Every decision you make, every ethical or unethical choice, every impulse you indulge or restrain is a fragment of the reflection that will one day confront you. The laughter, the betrayals, the moments of generosity, all ripple forward, creating pathways, shaping destinies, and guiding the consciousness, either toward light or into the cycles of repetition. This is the essence of the Bardo, the threshold, where the soul encounters itself, where the invisible ledger of mind becomes visible, where freedom and entrapment are determined by awareness. The 6 realms themselves are more than abstract concepts. They are psychological landscapes as well as metaphysical realities. The realm of the gods, the realm of humans, the realm of animals, hungry ghosts, demonic beings, and the realm of hell, all are symbolic mirrors of consciousness. Each realm reflects tendencies and states within the mind. Attachment, aversion, fear, pride, desire, ignorance. To enter a particular realm is to follow the trajectory laid out by one's own habitual patterns. And yet the Bardo does not close the door, it illuminates it. Awareness can redirect the soul, even at this final threshold, if courage and clarity are present. The mirror, then, is not merely a device of judgment. It is a teaching. It is a demonstration of the principle that all phenomena arise from the mind. The light and shadow, the division of paths, the unfolding of destiny, all are contingent upon consciousness, upon the intentions and energies we cultivate during life. The Bardo of the 3rd day is the apex of this revelation, the moment when the soul, confronted with the totality of its being, must acknowledge the truth. It has often avoided. In this sense, the story of the mirror in the Bardo resonates deeply with modern psychological insight. The reflective experience is analogous to moments in our waking life when we are forced to confront our actions, our fears, and our attachments. It is an inner reckoning, a confrontation with the shadow aspects of the self that Jung describes so compellingly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Here, in the luminous expanse of the mirror, we see the same principle enacted. The unconscious becomes visible. The hidden intentions of the mind are laid bare, and the consequences of each action are revealed. The 6 paths are the archetypal outcomes of these intentions, demonstrating that freedom and entrapment are not imposed externally, but arise from within. And so the mirror teaches both caution and hope. It reminds us that nothing is hidden from the awareness of the mind, and that our choices echo through existence, shaping the trajectory of consciousness. It also reminds us that at any moment, awareness and courage can redirect the flow, that understanding and insight are always possible, and that liberation is available, even in the face of the most profound revelation. Thus, the 3rd day of the Bardo, standing before the mirror, is both a culmination and a beginning, a culmination of all actions, intentions, and energies accumulated in life, and a beginning of understanding, awareness, and potential liberation. The mirror reflects not merely what has been, but the possibilities that arise from conscious engagement. In this, the Bardo becomes not a distant myth, but a living metaphor for the human experience, an eternal reminder that our inner life, our awareness, and our choices determine the worlds we inhabit, both within and beyond. Let us now explore the first of the 6 paths revealed on the 3rd day after. Death, the path known as the realm of hell, or Jigokudo. This is the path taken by those whose lives were dominated by anger, violence, and the cruelty of unchecked impulses. It is within the Buddhist framework of the 6 realms, the most harrowing and painful of all existences, a world where the consequences of past actions manifest in their most extreme form. Imagine, if you can, a gate wreathed in red flames, pulsing with heat and energy. This is the threshold of hell itself. As the gate opens, souls are drawn into a landscape of unending torment. These are not abstract punishments imposed by a deity, but the natural consequences of a mind that has clung to hatred and resentment. Those who enter this realm are the embodiments of the anger they nurtured in life, the political tyrant who crushed the weak for personal gain, the warmonger who ignited conflict to serve ambition, the individual whose inability to control rage caused harm to others. Each soul finds itself enveloped by the very suffering it inflicted, as if the flames themselves are the physical echo of their own inner turmoil. Here, the heat is relentless. The flames do not consume in a moment and fade, but instead they rise again and again, reflecting the enduring power of unrelenting anger. Pain is not external. It is born from the mind itself. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes it with profound clarity. Those who cannot release anger burn themselves in the fire. The fire is not outside, it is the karma of the mind. Consider this deeply. The suffering of hell is not the arbitrary punishment of an external force. It is the inescapable reflection of unresolved inner states. Every act of cruelty, every word spoken in malice, every intention rooted in hatred becomes an energetic imprint, a force that continues to affect the consciousness long after the body has perished. The flames of hell are, in essence, mirrors of the mind's unresolved conflicts, illuminating how destructive emotions, if left unchecked, shape the trajectory of existence itself. Philosophically, this insight is staggering. It suggests that the ultimate punishment is self-inflicted, that the mind, when dominated by anger, projects its own torment into the very fabric of reality. There is no external deity decreeing retribution. The law is intrinsic, inescapable, yet profoundly instructive. Anger and violence are seeds planted in consciousness, and the realm of hell is the natural unfolding of these seeds. Liberation is only possible when the mind recognizes its own patterns and consciously lets go of the impulses that bind it to suffering. In psychological terms, the realm of hell represents the consequence of failing to integrate the shadow aspects of oneself. Jungian psychology would call this the unacknowledged rage, the parts of the self that have been repressed, but continue to influence behavior in destructive ways. Until these shadows are recognized and integrated, they manifest in cycles of pain and repetition. Just as in the Bardo, the soul in hell cannot escape the consequences of its own unresolved patterns. The fiery landscape is symbolic of this inner reality. Each flame, each wave of heat mirrors the intensity and persistence of anger and resentment within the psyche. Moreover, the hell realm teaches a vital lesson about responsibility and awareness. In life, when anger dominates our mind, we often project it outward, blaming others, seeking vengeance, or pursuing self-interest at the expense of compassion. In the Bardo, these patterns return, concentrated and amplified. The torment is both literal and metaphorical, a mirror of the suffering we have caused and the suffering we have refused to confront within ourselves. The fire does not judge, it reflects. It is a natural consequence, a manifestation of the law of karma, and a final opportunity for insight. The first path, the realm of hell, therefore serves as a profound metaphor for the human condition. It reminds us that unchecked anger and malice carry consequences far beyond the immediate moment, shaping the contours of consciousness itself. It also reminds us that liberation is possible, but only through acknowledgement, acceptance, and the courageous act of releasing destructive patterns. The fire is not eternal in the sense of being arbitrary. It endures only as long as the mind clings to its own unresolved anger. Let go, and the flames no longer hold sway. As we reflect on this first path, let it serve as both warning and invitation. Anger, when unexamined and unintegrated, becomes the architect of suffering, creating realms of torment both within and beyond life. Yet, awareness and conscious choice can redirect its energy. Just as the Bardo reflects the consequences of the mind's patterns, our daily lives mirror these same principles. The moments we allow anger to dictate our actions are microcosms of hell. The moments we choose awareness, compassion, and restraint are steps toward liberation, toward a conscious shaping of our destiny, and toward a mind unbound by the chains of past harm. In the narrative of the Shibal Bardo, the first path, the realm of hell, is the ultimate illustration of the principle that the mind creates its own reality. It is a vivid, dramatic reminder that suffering is not punishment inflicted by others, but the inevitable reflection of unresolved emotions and unskillful intentions. And it is within this understanding, paradoxically, that hope arises. the hope that insight, self-awareness, and deliberate action can transform even the most terrifying landscape into an opportunity for liberation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue our journey through the Bardo, we arrive at the second of the 6 paths revealed on the 3rd day after death, the realm of hungry ghosts, or Gakido. This is the domain of those whose lives were dominated by greed, desire, and attachment, a world defined by insatiable craving and unfulfilled longing. Imagine, if you can, a gate opening into a barren desert where endless sands stretch beyond the horizon and a relentless wind scours the land. Here, in this desolate expanse, souls wander in search of sustenance, yet each effort is met with frustration. The hunger is profound, the thirst unquenchable. These are not external punishments imposed by divine decree, but the natural outcome of lives lived in relentless attachment, of minds that sought fulfillment outside themselves, and of hearts that measured worth by possession rather than understanding. The inhabitants of this realm are those who, in life, were consumed by the desire to acquire, to possess, to control. Merchants who deceived others for wealth, officials who sought power at the expense of integrity, lovers who treated their partners as objects of possession rather than beings of intrinsic value, all now find themselves trapped in a mirror of their own obsessions. Their bellies are swollen as mountains, yet their throats are narrow as needles, ensuring that no matter how much they consume, satisfaction is forever out of reach. Each morsel becomes ash. Each sip of water transforms into dust and blood, a symbolic reflection of the futility of craving when it dominates the mind. The Tibetan Book of the Dead offers a profound insight into this realm. Greed is never satisfied. The moment one tries to fill it, the hunger deepens. Philosophically, the realm of hungry ghosts illustrates the insidious nature of attachment. Desire, when unexamined and unchecked, becomes a force that perpetuates suffering. It is not merely a moral failing, it is an energetic pattern that shapes the consciousness, creating a cycle of longing and dissatisfaction. The more one seeks external fulfillment, the more pronounced the inner emptiness becomes. This is not an arbitrary punishment. It is the natural consequence of a mind oriented outward, endlessly grasping, never content, never at peace. Psychologically, this realm is a powerful metaphor for our everyday lives. Consider the moments when desire and attachment dominate our choices. The craving for status, the obsession with material gain, the compulsion to possess or control others. These patterns create an inner hunger that no external achievement can satiate. Like the souls in the Gakido, we may find ourselves chasing fulfillment in ways that leave us perpetually unsatisfied, turning each success into a fleeting illusion, each pleasure into temporary relief. The fire of greed is internal, the desert, vast and unyielding. And yet the path toward liberation is possible if one turns inward, cultivating contentment, mindfulness, and awareness. The imagery of the narrow throat and the swollen belly is deeply instructive. It conveys the paradox of attachment. The very mechanisms we believe will bring satisfaction, acquisition, control, indulgence become the instruments of suffering. Each act of consumption, each attempt to grasp, strengthens the patterns of craving and dependency. The Gakido teaches that fulfillment cannot be found outside that truth. Contentment arises only from transforming the mind. and releasing the compulsive desire that binds it. Furthermore, this realm invites reflection on the impermanence and interdependence of all things. The hunger and thirst of the hungry ghost are not eternal in themselves. They endure only as long as attachment persists. Awareness, insight, and deliberate choice can transform the landscape. Just as the Bardo reveals the consequences of action, so too does it illuminate the possibility of liberation. The moment the mind turns from external craving to internal clarity, the desert begins to yield, the hunger diminishes, and the soul moves toward freedom. In the narrative of the Shibal Bardo, the realm of hungry ghosts serves as both warning and guidance. It illustrates the natural consequences of insatiable desire, while also offering a mirror through which the living can examine their own attachments. The suffering is real, yet the possibility of insight and transformation remains ever present. By understanding that craving is self-created, we are invited to cultivate generosity, restraint, and mindfulness. In doing so, we step out of the desert of endless longing and toward a state of balance and fulfillment, both in life and in the cycles beyond. Thus, the second path, the Gakido, is more than a vision of the afterlife. It is a profound metaphor for human consciousness, revealing how desire shapes experience, how attachment perpetuates suffering, and how awareness and intention can redirect the course of the mind. Just as the hungry ghosts suffer from insatiable longing, we too may experience the consequences of unexamined desire in our daily lives. Yet through mindfulness, ethical action, and the cultivation of insight, liberation is always within reach. In summary, the realm of hungry ghosts is a testament to the profound law of karma, that the patterns we cultivate in life echo in consciousness, creating worlds of satisfaction or suffering according to our intentions. The desert, the wind, the insatiable hunger, all are reflections of mind. And in recognizing this, we are offered not despair, but profound hope. The hope that through awareness, compassion, and disciplined practice, even the deepest cravings can be transformed, and the soul can move toward light, freedom, and true fulfillment. On the third day after death, the deceased faces the third path in the Shibal Bardo, the realm of animals, or Chikushodo. This is the domain for those who have accumulated karma through ignorance and foolishness, those whose lives were dominated by unawareness, indifference, and lack of discernment. In Buddhist cosmology, this realm encompasses all animal life: beasts, insects, birds, fish, manifesting according to the karmic imprints of previous actions. It is a world where suffering is inherent and consciousness is limited, where the mind is governed by instinct rather than reflection, a state that mirrors the consequences of a life lived without wisdom. Visualize the threshold to this realm, a dense fog, enveloping a vast field, the air thick with the scent of earth and decay. Within this space, the forms of countless creatures emerge: cows, dogs, snakes, pigs, horses, and flocks of birds. Yet these beings move not by conscious choice, but by instinct alone, their existence stripped of higher awareness. Those who enter this path are the living embodiments of ignorance they fail to recognize right from wrong, remained indifferent to the suffering of others, and neglected to contemplate the purpose and meaning of life. Here, the punishment is not cruel by divine decree, rather, it is a natural consequence and simultaneously a profound opportunity. As beasts, these souls experience firsthand the suffering they once ignored or avoided, learning humility and compassion through embodied experience. The animal life becomes a school of wisdom. Suffering is no longer abstract, but tangible, teaching empathy and respect for life. The fourth path, following the realm of animals, is the realm of asuras, or asurado, which is traversed by those who accumulated karma through jealousy, envy, and relentless competition. The gateway to this path is a battlefield, armor clashing, blades entwined, the earth and sky trembling beneath the fury of endless combat. This is the domain of the warrior spirits, consumed by rivalry, consumed by the desire to dominate and surpass others. Those who enter this realm were driven in life by envy and the relentless pursuit of victory, constantly comparing themselves with others, seeking honor, recognition, and triumph. Here, the conflict is eternal. Victory breeds arrogance. Defeat incites rage. The cycle repeats endlessly, a mirror to the competitive and envious mind. As the Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches, the joy of victory is fleeting, the suffering of comparison endless. And then comes the fifth path, the human realm, or ninjendo, traversed by those whose karma is balanced, neither dominated by extreme greed, anger, nor ignorance. The gateway opens to a peaceful landscape of flowing rivers and clear skies, a realm where joy and sorrow coexist, imperfection and beauty entwined. This is the human world, a domain where ethical choice, moral discernment, and conscious action are possible. Those who enter this realm are reborn as humans, offered the unique opportunity to learn through love and loss, to encounter suffering and joy, and to cultivate wisdom through experience. Buddhism holds the human realm as the most precious of all, for it is here, and only here, that beings can consciously choose between right and wrong, virtue and vice. It is a realm of potential, a landscape of ethical responsibility and spiritual opportunity. As the Tibetan teachings remind us, to be born as a human is more difficult than threading a single hair through the eye of a needle. In psychological and philosophical terms, these paths, the animal, the asura, and the human, offer profound lessons for our lives. The animal realm teaches us the consequences of ignorance and the necessity of cultivating awareness. The asura realm illuminates the destructive patterns of envy and comparison, showing how internal conflicts can manifest in relentless cycles of struggle. And the human realm, with its balance of suffering and joy, presents the ultimate opportunity, the chance to reflect, to choose consciously, and to engage in the cultivation of virtue, compassion, and wisdom. As we contemplate these realms, it becomes clear that the Bardo is not merely a post-mortem journey, but a vivid metaphor for consciousness itself. Every moment of ignorance, every act of envy or unbridled desire, and every balanced choice in life mirrors the realms of rebirth, showing that our actions, rooted in awareness or ignorance, create realities both within and around us. The landscapes of animal instinct, relentless rivalry, and human potential are not distant or mythical. They are reflections of the inner states we cultivate daily. Thus, on the third day after death, as the deceased traverses these paths, we are reminded that life itself is a continuous interplay of awareness, choice, and consequence. The Bardo reveals in profound clarity that the states of existence, whether animal, warrior, or human, are mirrors of our mind, our intentions, and our capacity for growth. The journey is both cautionary and instructive, showing us that ignorance, envy, and attachment bind us to suffering, while awareness, compassion, and balance open the door to liberation. In essence, the third, fourth, and fifth paths are lessons in consciousness. The animal realm warns of the dangers of unawareness. The asura realm cautions against envy and competitiveness. And the human realm celebrates the potential for conscious, ethical action and spiritual growth. By contemplating these realms, we are invited to examine our own patterns of thought and behavior, to see where we are governed by ignorance, where envy arises, and where conscious choice allows for transformation. The Bardo thus speaks to the living as much as to the dead. The worlds it reveals are within us, mirrored in every choice we make, every emotion we harbor, and every intention we cultivate. By seeing the animal, asura, and human realms as reflections of our inner landscape, we are given the opportunity to awaken, to recognize the patterns that bind us, and to consciously step toward balance, compassion, and liberation. On the third day after death, the deceased faces the sixth and final path in the Bardo, the heavenly realm, or Tenshodo. This is the path for those whose karma has ripened into merit, for those whose lives were steeped in acts of compassion, selflessness, and genuine love. In Buddhist cosmology, the heavenly realm is one of the 6 worlds of rebirth, the world of the gods, a place of serenity, bliss, and ease, where beings enjoy the fruits of virtuous deeds. Imagine the gateway, a radiant palace bathed in pure, dazzling light, a world suffused with luminous energy. Here dwell those who have lived lives of virtue, who cultivated compassion and sacrificed for others. They move through existence unburdened by pain, coexisting with beings of light, and experiencing joy beyond the grasp of ordinary understanding. Yet even here, the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers a profound warning. Even in the heavenly realm, one is not free from the cycle of rebirth. Attachment to pleasure leads inevitably to descent. The joy of this realm is transient. When the merit of past actions is exhausted, even the denizens of heaven return to the human realm to cultivate new karma, continuing the cycle of life and rebirth. This is the great paradox. Even the most sublime bliss is impermanent, reminding us that no external condition can provide lasting liberation. Only the mind can. As the third day progresses, all 6 paths, the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, animals, asuras, humans, and heaven are visible, yet their doors close, gradually, leaving the deceased momentarily suspended in the void between worlds. Then a low, gentle voice emerges from the heavens. Now you must choose. Will you close your eyes in fear or open them with compassion? The soul hesitates, weighing the pull of attachment against the call of insight. And then, slowly, deliberately, it moves toward a streak of azure, light a beacon of clarity and grace. Whether this path leads to hell, the human realm, or heaven is unknown. What is certain is that the soul is guided entirely by the momentum of its own karma. These 6 paths are not merely posthumous destinations, they are reflections of the mind, a mirror of our inner states. Consider this: when we are consumed by anger, we traverse the hellish landscapes of our own inner torment. When greed and desire dominate us, we endure the starvation of the hungry ghosts, the gnawing emptiness of unfulfilled cravings. When ignorance clouds our judgment, we stumble through the darkness of the animal realm. When envy and rivalry inflame our hearts, we fight endless battles in the asura realm. When we cultivate balance, discernment, and mindful awareness, we walk the human path, a realm of potential and ethical choice. And when we practice true compassion and wisdom, we experience the luminous serenity of the heavenly realm. In other words, the 6 paths of rebirth are not merely future states, they are the map of the mind in the present moment. Every choice, every thought, every intention shapes the landscape of our inner world, just as karma shapes the journey of the soul. The 6 gates the deceased faces on the 3rd day are not external. They are portals within the mind itself. Ultimately, the Buddhist teaching converges into a single, profound truth. All karma arises from the mind, and all liberation is perfected in the mind. This is why the Bardo is not a story of fear, but a meditation on consciousness, choice, and responsibility. The heavenly realm, like all realms, is a reflection of the mind's tendencies. True liberation comes not from external circumstances, but from the conscious choice to awaken, to turn toward light, to embrace compassion, to cultivate wisdom. If this story illuminates even a small corner of your inner darkness, then I encourage you to subscribe and like this channel. Each click is more than a simple action. It is a symbolic affirmation that you are choosing light over darkness, awareness over attachment, and liberation over ignorance. Thank you for joining this journey. In the next episode, we will explore the threshold of rebirth, the meaning of entering a new life after the Bardo, and the profound Buddhist insights into the cycle of reincarnation. Together, we will delve into the mystery of rebirth, the profound interplay of karma, consciousness, and the potential for awakening within each of us. Remember, the heavenly realm, like all 6 realms, is both a destination and a reflection, a mirror of our present mind. By observing these paths, we do not merely study philosophy. We witness the currents of our own consciousness, recognize the weight of each intention, and cultivate a life guided by awareness, courage, and compassionate insight. Let this understanding ripple outward, share it, carry it forward, and allow the light of mindful living to touch others as it transforms yourself.